to start this course by doing something a bit unconventional. We're going to do a root cause analysis on root cause analysis, or more specifically on why traditional root cause analysis methods fail. That's something to think about. The tool that organizations around the world rely on to find the root of their problems is itself broken, and not very many people are talking about it. If you've ever been in a meeting after something went wrong, an outage, a missed deadline, a quality failure, a security incident, you've probably experienced what I'm about to describe. Someone pulls out the 5 whys. We're trained to do it. It sounds so reasonable, so logical. Just keep asking why until you get to the root cause. 5 times should do it. Yeah, that's a big assumption. But the 5 whys was originally developed by Sakichi Toyoda, the founder of Toyota Industries, and later it was formalized by Taiichi Ono as part of the Toyota production system. In that original context, diagnosing mechanical and manufacturing defects, it worked beautifully. Why did the machine stop? A fuse blew. Why did the fuse blow? Overload. Why was there an overload? Insufficient lubrication. There you're talking about components, parts, processes. No one's feelings get hurt when you ask a machine why. But what happened is that organizations took a tool designed for mechanical systems and started pointing it at people. The moment you point why at a person, everything changes. Imagine there's been a major production outage. The team gathers for the post-mortem, and the facilitator starts the 5 whys. Why did the system go down? Because a configuration change was pushed to production that hadn't been properly tested. Why wasn't it properly tested? Now you feel the shift? Do you feel where that question is headed? The next answer almost has to involve a person. Someone didn't test it. Someone skipped a step. Someone made a decision, and everyone in that room can feel the crosshairs moving. Because the engineer pushed it directly, bypassing the staging environment. Why did they bypass the staging environment? And now we're not doing root cause analysis anymore. We're doing something else entirely. We're building a case. We're constructing a narrative that ends with a name. W. Edwards Deming saw this problem decades ago. Deming, widely regarded as the father of modern quality management, made Drive Out Fear the 8th of his famous 14 points for management. He's often credited with saying blame the process, not the people. A distillation of his broader teaching that 85% of the reasons for failure are deficiencies in the systems and process rather than the employee. The role of management is to change the process rather than badgering individuals to do better. He also warned that the workers are handicapped by the system, and the system belongs to the management. He understood that when you create fear, you don't get honesty, you get self-protection. He wrote in The New Economics, "Fear invites wrong figures. Bearers of bad news fare badly. To keep his job, anyone may present to his boss only good news." Think about the implications of that for root cause analyses. If the people closest to the failure are afraid of being blamed, they are not going to give you the information you need to actually understand what happened. They almost cannot, because self-preservation is one of the most powerful human instincts. And it will override any process, any framework, any investigation methodology you put in place. Sidney Dekker, professor and one of the world's leading researchers on human error and system safety, put it this way in his book, The Field Guide to Understanding Human Error. He writes that underneath every simple, obvious story about human error, there's a deeper, more complex story about the organization. Let that sink in for a minute. Every time an investigation ends with someone made a mistake, there is a deeper story you didn't find. A story about the system, the pressures, the trade-offs, the design, the culture. And the 5 whys, by its very structure, almost guarantees you'll stop at the simple story. Dekker also said there is almost no human action or decision that cannot be made to look flawed and less sensible in the misleading light of hindsight. The misleading light of hindsight. It's important to think about that because a lot of times people are just like, well, hindsight's 2020. We always know better with hindsight. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's actually misleading. Now, in a blame-oriented investigation, we already know the outcome. We worked backward. So suddenly everything the person did looks obviously wrong, but it didn't look wrong to them at the time. What if they were making the best decisions they could with the information they had right then and there? That is very often the case. John Allspaw, the former chief technology officer of Etsy, was one of the pioneers of blameless postmortems in the tech industry. In his influential 2014 article, The Infinite Hows, he made a critical observation. He pointed out that asking why leads to blaming a person, while asking how leads to understanding the system. That single word swap from why to how fundamentally changes what your investigation produces. On the Etsy engineering blog, Allspaw wrote, "An engineer who thinks they're going to be reprimanded is disincentivized to give the details necessary to an understanding of the mechanism, pathology, and operation of the failure. This lack of understanding of how the accident occurred all but guarantees that it's going to repeat. When people fear blame, they withhold the very information that you need. So what's going to happen? History will repeat itself. Your investigation did not prevent the next incident, it just guaranteed it." In the book Pre-Accident Investigations, Todd Conklin, who spent 25 years as a senior advisor at Los Alamos National Laboratory, which is one of the world's premier research institutions, argues that workers don't cause failure. What workers do, he says, is trigger weaknesses that already exist in environments, processes, systems, and in the work organization itself. The failure was already latent in the system. The person just happened to be the one who encountered it. So here's where we are. The 5 whys, a tool born on the factory floor for diagnosing mechanical problems, has been adopted as the default investigation method across virtually every industry. But when applied to human systems, to teams, organizations, complex socio-technical environments, it carries a fundamental design flaw. The word why, when directed at people, triggers defensiveness. It assumes linear causality in systems that are anything but linear, and it drives investigations toward individuals instead of the systemic conditions that actually produced the failure. Eric Halmnagel, another giant in the field of safety science, describes this as the what you look for is what you find principle, or you'll see it as WYLFIWFY. If your investigation method is designed to find a person who made a mistake, that's exactly what it's going to find. Every single time. And that's not going to find it because that's the truth. It's going to find that because that's what the tool is built to produce. And Halmnagel points out that what you look for is what you fix. If you find a person, you fix the person. You retrain them, you write them up, you fire them. And the system that produced the failure remains completely untouched, just waiting for the next victim, waiting to produce the same failure through a different person. Over the next several lessons, we're going to take apart the traditional approach to root cause analysis piece by piece. We're going to understand how and where it breaks down, and then we're going to rebuild it with methods that actually work, methods that create psychological safety, surface honest information, and drive real systemic improvement. The goal never was originally trying to find a person to blame. The goal was always to make things better, but we just had the wrong tools.